So we waited and waited and waited, and the Apple Watch is finally here. Let's take a look at it. So the Apple Watch is a big deal. It's Apple's first new product in 5 years in the post-Steve Jobs era. It's also on the pricey side, ranging from anywhere to $349 all the way up to $17,000. So jumping right in, the watch looks and feels like a first-generation device. There are no similarities to other Apple products. watchOS is an entirely new environment unlike iOS or OS X, and you'll definitely feel that barrier when switching between your iPhone and Apple Watch. It's not just the font that does this, but the circular icons, blackout versus whiteout theme, and the overall interface will definitely change your perspective. The way the watch feels is interesting. I never wore a watch before, so this took some time to get used to. I'm still on the fence whether or not I like the Milanese Loop, and it's why I ordered a separate black leather loop that should be here soon, which was my initial first pick anyways. Other than that, the watch body is a bit on the heavy side, but it's comfortable and I'm already used to it. Let's talk about controls. Unlike other smartwatches, the Apple Watch utilizes both digital and physical controls. These range from the display itself, featuring Apple's new Force Touch technology, to the digital crown and side button for Friends and Apple Pay. You'll mistake that one for a sleep button at first, which originally confused the daylights out of me. The digital crown is cool, and I love being able to scroll through lists and such without having to touch the display. It's smooth and fluid, and it's a plus that I can use it since I have large fingers. However, you can do just about anything in terms of digital crown scrolling with your fingers as well. The rear of the watch is where the heart rate sensor lies, which is great, but it also doubles as where you'll lay that inductive magnetic hockey puck-like charger to juice up the device. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the charger. The concept is very cool, however, it's not quite as strong as something like the MacBook's MagSafe connector and charger, and I found it to slide off the heart rate sensor easily. As a matter of fact, after putting the watch to charge for the first night, I didn't even realize that it wasn't on all the way, and woke up the next morning with 23% battery life. So yeah, this is something Apple needs to improve. The Apple Watch's display is hands down beautiful. It's got great deep and detailed colors, along with vivid blacks that blend in with the bezel. They're so believable that they'll fool you into thinking the display is edge to edge, and as you move things around, the illusion is created even further as your fingers roll off the curved screen. For this particular model, the sapphire crystal is absolutely stunning, and I love the fact that it's scratch proof, as it's an issue I'm already seeing on my Ion X screen on the Sport Apple Watch. While on the topic of hardware, I also love the way the stainless steel looks. It's beautifully polished to a mirror finish, and it looks especially great paired with the Milanese Loop. But there is a major downside, and that is the fact that just about any stainless steel watch is prone to scratching. The stainless steel case on the Apple Watch is no exception. I've had the device for a little over a week, and I'm already beginning to see those scratches. Not a big deal, but I think Apple could have worked their magic to avoid this problem. Reminds me of those days when we had that old classic mirror finish on the back of iPods. Of course, the Apple Watch is a timepiece, so the first thing you're going to see when raising the device is your watch face. I really like the modular face, since I grew up mostly reading digital clocks anyway. The other faces, in my opinion, are so-so, since I don't prefer any of the analog ones, and I guess the motion one with jellyfish is the only other one I could put up with. The modular face also provides a great deal of information, which is something I definitely appreciate. I've looked around to see what others offer, and it turns out I'm not the only one. Apple also says the watch is their most personal device ever, and I'm hoping that come the next version of watchOS, customization will be taken even further, and we'll be able to purchase and download third-party faces as well. A big part of Apple Watch is notifications. When it comes to any notification, you'll get a very gentle tap on your wrist, along with a simple bell chime or ding sound upon the notification, but the screen stays off until you raise your wrist to see it. From there, if you keep looking, you can read further detail about the notification and choose exactly what you want to do with it. It sounds great, but this can definitely get annoying. By default, all notifications from all apps come through your watch at first, and you'll need to go into the Apple Watch app on your iPhone to change that. And if you're in group chats, boy, do these dings get annoying. And if you miss a notification, by the ways, they'll be chilling in the notification center waiting for you to see them, which you can only reveal by swiping down on the watch face. There's also glances, which to reveal, you can activate by swiping up on the clock face. I only find a few of these useful. The widgets for Do Not Disturb, Silent Mode, etc., the music controls, and my heart rate. I already have my battery percentage on my clock face, so I don't really need that, and all the others are pretty useless to me. Not because I don't want to see the information they provide, but because they're just too damn slow. Like Twitter, or weather, or maps, or the stocks. they just take what will feel like forever to load, since they don't load in the background and are running off of iPhone. This is another area of the Apple Watch in desperate need of improvement. Let's talk about that side button again, the one you'll mistake for a lock button at first. By pressing it in once, you reveal your friends list, or circle, I should say, where you could pick one of up to 12 people to contact. So, let's say I contact my brother Chris, for example. From here, I can phone call him Dick Tracy style, which works pretty well so far. This is using the iPhone, of course, and it uses the speaker microphone in the watch to help you do so. Probably one of my most favorite features so far, as I use it pretty much all the time. Now, aside from making phone calls, I can also poke at Chris using digital touch, which, for starters, I really don't like. It's more of a demo, if anything, to show off to people, but it's not very useful. The taps are cool, but drawing on the watch is nearly impossible, and while sending your heart rate sounds cool, it doesn't work for me half the time. Maybe it's just because I have big fingers. Now, I can also text Chris from the watch with auto-generated replies very similar to what we already have in iOS, and I can also use my voice either with dictation or voice recording depending on what I want, or I can also message him with emojis. Now, this is where things get weird. Apple offers the standard emoji from iOS, but also added a new animated set of emojis that kind of freak me out. The faces, for the most part, offer some really funky expressions, and besides the smiling one, I'm not sure I'd want to ever send any of these to anybody. Seriously. The heart and mime hand ones, well, I just don't bother with them. I could care less for them and almost never send them since my brother is the only person I'm in contact with who actually has an Apple Watch. And considering the fact that the animated emojis just look downright horrible when sent to an iOS device, it's something I'd pretty much never use. I can see this being pulled from watchOS shortly, unless I'm missing some big upcoming phenomenon here. Clicking in that side button twice will reveal Apple Pay. It's simple, fast, and secure, as after revealing your card, you hold it up to the NFC reader at whatever store you may be in, and it's done. Another really great feature of the watch, but then again, very few businesses so far have incorporated Apple Pay into their ecosystems, so it's not something I get the chance to use often at all. Clicking the digital crown inward on the watch reveals the home screen, and this was the most advertised and probably most seen screen of the watch itself, since it's so familiar looking to your iPhone's icons. We don't really need to get into Apple's stock apps, since you already know what they contain, but what I really wanted to touch on is the third-party apps and their developers. Third-party apps run remotely off of iPhone right now, and they're all very, very limited in terms of what they can do. They take forever to load, they're sluggish, and display minimal information. For example, Instagram only shows me the latest 5 or 6 pictures in my feed. Twitter has no avies for the users tweeting in my feed, so even though their usernames are there, it just doesn't feel like I know who's tweeting. Some apps don't even load correctly, like the Delta Airlines one, for example, and it's even crashed a whole bunch on me. I really have to blame the developers here. They've had the WatchKit SDK since November, and they got really lazy and didn't see the big picture here. I'll give some credit to the ones who did take advantage and tried to make app companions for the watch, but most developers didn't bother. For example, I have to use the Twitter app on my watch and have to have it downloaded on my iPhone to check Twitter only on my watch, and then, since I prefer the Tweetbot Twitter client over Twitter on the iPhone, have to switch over to Tweetbot on the iPhone for my normal Twitter experience. It's a big confusing mess, and I hate it. It's my least favorite thing about the watch, and I wish developers took advantage of the 6-month window of opportunity before the watch's release. I don't want to hear that it takes time, because if you're a developer spending more than 6 months on a tiny companion app that people will probably use for less than 15 seconds on an 1.5-inch screen, there's something wrong with you. And if you haven't even considered making a companion app to jump on the Apple Watch bandwagon and the big marketing opportunities associated with it, shame on you. I have nearly 40 applications on my iPhone, and less than 15 of them actually work with the watch. That's just pathetic and embarrassing. Okay, let's take it down a notch and check out the heart rate sensor on the back of the watch, which is pretty cool and is also the center of health and fitness, as it will track exactly what your heart rate is every 10 minutes, which can then be seen in glances. It's also used to track how you're doing when exercising, and I love having the activity app to track 3 things: moving, exercising, and standing. I get this nice little summary at the end of the day telling me just how much I accomplished, with reminders throughout the day to stay active. In addition, there's a workout app included. However, I want to buy a sport band for my watch first before I actually take this pricey thing to the weight room and risk having it banged around. The health aspect of the watch is definitely cool though, and the summaries are stored in the iPhone for you to keep track of. So I shelled out $700 on my Apple Watch. It's the stainless steel 42mm with Milanese Loop. I like the 42mm screen, but could definitely go even bigger if it were possible. I certainly couldn't imagine using a 38mm, as I think it would just be too small. As I said before, I like the Milanese Loop, but it's constantly snagging my arm hairs and gets uncomfortable at times. This band was my second choice since it was the only one shipping on April 24th next to the leather loop model, at an estimated shipping time of 4 to 6 weeks. I have ordered the band separately since it was my first choice and should have it sometime here this month according to my order status. Now don't be as silly as me and buy a pricey first gen Apple Watch. I also snagged a 42mm Apple Watch Sport model with a blue sport band, and I'm here to report that the watches, in terms of functionality, are identical. You won't see or feel a difference internally. The price difference is really all about the looks, and that's why I opted for the much nicer looking stainless steel watch. Just do me a favor and don't get that gold one. I have no idea why you'd even consider buying an Apple Watch over $1,000, let alone considering the fact that the edition pricing begins at $10,000 and goes all the way to $17,000. It's just ridiculous. I don't actually know anyone that has bought the edition model. I think it's really reserved for those celebrities who will always just buy something if it's shiny and made by Apple, or if you're one of those lucky celebs like Beyonce or Drake who has Apple hand deliver them free of charge. So that's my review of the Apple Watch. It's ambitious, so far it's cool, and there's definitely a great future ahead for this little guy. But it's got a long ways to go. It's not going to replace your iPhone, as it's just not that capable yet, but it'll be interesting to see what Apple takes away from this first experience to make the next few generations of Apple Watch even better. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.